it's not going to be forever. It's for the first people in line can actually get a 20-year contract. Okay? So again, if you were thinking about doing that, they're going to pay you something like $1,000 a year to use your roof. What's the downside of that?
I'm not sure what it
If you
does.
go to sell your house, there's an encumbrance on the title that says the next person has to have that on there. And if they don't want it on there, they have to pay to take it off.
Right.
That's something to think about.
So you don't actually get to use any of the electricity, it gets sold to the...
Well, they're selling it. They're making the money. So if I was going to do it, I would do it. I want the 80 cents. And if you're thinking about what I'm saying, reduce your loads as much as you possibly can and then sell it. Yeah,
possibly do both, you know.
And if anybody in the room's interested, they could ask Baywood about helping them do that.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You don't actually work for Baywood, you're with this other company, right?
They pay me to certify your houses, but I'm a third party.
So you're saying Baywood could come to clients' houses or people's houses and help them energy retrofit?
Well, the person to have a co-op with, I think, is the builder. Because the home buyer already has a relationship with them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No, and you're married together for 7 years. That's what your warranty is. So why not collaborate in another way? So what those guys are trying to do is mass marketing, and they're trying to make all the money. But a lot of the builders aren't actually letting them do that because they're saying, look, we built the house.
So we'd have to negotiate with the Minister of Energy to sell this, to make sure we have a market. We'll have a market for 20 years, because that company already has that market.
No, they don't. It's a contract. They have to
We'd
go.
have to negotiate.
They got to get you to sign so they can get the contract.
But if we do it on our own, wouldn't we have to negotiate all that ourselves?
You would get a permit.
So we'd have to have a...
But if you got a smaller company that would install the PV, you can get a co-op on your subdivision. Do it like that. When you see the numbers, so I was saving this for the last. The net income off 1 kilowatt of panels, which is basically about 400 square feet, is $900 a year. Net. That's income that you put in your pocket. So why do you want to split that up with somebody else? So after you pay the guy to put the panels on the roof, you depreciate it, you pay for the interest on the bank loan, you make $900 a kilowatt at 80 cents.
So in everyday use, would you recommend going to 200 amps or just 100 amps? More than
Nobody needs 200 amps. That's absolute malarkey. Unless they're going to put in 7 plasma TVs. So if you're smart, again, it's the Europeans have got this. If you want to save money, don't use the electricity. That's the best thing we have is conservation. It's not using it.
the electric heating you might need it. Sort of, you have gas.
So there's some places you cannot put in anything smaller than 200 amps. Do you need 200 amps? Not if you're doing what I'm talking about. Right? If you put in that front-loading washer, if you put in a furnace that has a DC motor on it.
So is it raw furnaces are DC motors, the one the builder's putting on?
Yeah, every
Is it like
every one of your
two-stage?
Baywood houses has, it's called an ECM motor, electrically commutated. It's got a computer in it. It's smart. It knows exactly what to do. And it uses 80% less electricity. 80.
Is that what's called like a two-stage or continuous running?
That's on the burner side.
Do we have that on?
Yes, you got a 2-stage burner.
200 amp won't use any more service unless you use the power, though, right?
So it costs more to install.
Well, that's true, but you want to be concerned about things like electromagnetic radiation.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, I could talk for a couple hours on that. So we talked about it being well insulated. It's airtight, which is actually not a bad thing. You're never going to suffocate in your house, right? People are trapped in mine shafts and they don't have this much air and they survive. It's a question of air quality. But when a house is airtight, you can control what's going on inside it. Okay? And so in an existing house, In the winter, you're heating up the air, and the wind is actually changing that air 10 times a day. You're heating it up, the wind is pushing it out 10 times a day. In this house, it's about 2 times a day. Okay? So, we've got much higher indoor air quality. So the air inside your house comes from where? Where does all the air come from? It comes from outside. The house is actually trapping chemicals, particulate, car exhaust. Okay? All the normal building code houses just have exhaust fans that never go on to provide ventilation. You guys have a set of lungs in your house that's running 24/7, filtering the air that's coming from outside and recovering the heat on it. Okay? And the other way these Energy Star houses are different is we talked about reducing electrical demand. So there's about 10% less electricity consumption in a standard Energy Star house. You guys, because you have the good furnace, 25% less electrical use. Okay? So how many people in here are glad they bought an Energy Star house? Okay, that's good. This is just the beginning of it, okay? So we're talking about the outside being the skin. Okay, so we got a really good, tough, durable skin on the outside that's going to keep us warm in the winter. And that's what we're going to talk about first here. So we're actually doing an air test. And on a house like this, I'm just going to do all the conversions for you. You end up having a hole, if you added all the holes in the whole building envelope together, about the size of the sheet of paper. In a building code house, it might be 3 or 4 times that. Okay? So every single house gets an air test. We put a big door fan on the front door, suck the air out of the house. The air that's actually moving by the fan is air coming from outside, it's leakage. And we're simulating a 40-mile-an-hour wind, which we see in the winter. Okay? So the reason we want to make a house airtight is the 3 C's. You're going to be more comfortable in the house, that's really important. And you're actually going to be able to maintain humidity levels in the house. So people that are in...
Somebody suffering from arthritis, they'll be able to be more comfortable then?
Yeah, totally. That's more to do with drafts and things like that, right?
Of course, that you don't have to go to Arizona for the dryness, right? So
Well, the only
carbon
problem
footprint.
is your wife's skin needs moisture. So you're going to have to figure out how to balance, right? But typically in the winter, everybody's fighting to get humidity because it's too dry. You're going to have enough. And you can decide if you want it lower or higher.
Control it.
Right? So we're obviously saving a lot of cost savings. Air leakage accounts for 30% of the energy costs in your house. So remember, 10 times a day, air is leaving. When it leaves, it takes heat. When it leaves, it takes humidity. That's why our houses are so dry in the winter. And when it takes humidity into the outside wall, and it condenses on cold surfaces, what happens? Cold condensation. So that's the 3rd C, right? So cost or comfort, it's comfort, cost, and condensation. Those are the 3 C's. Okay? So here's your wall here, and see that diagonal bracing in there? Which I had my little laser. But that's actually making that wall structurally sound so it doesn't crack. It's not a house of cards. Okay? And in the wall cavities, we've got much higher density insulation, and we've got this on the outside. Okay?
Sorry, I missed that. This bracing, is that called cross bracing?
Yeah, or wind bracing. Okay?
So you recommend an option? Well, we have that. Or...
No, that's in there. It's part of the code.
Okay.
Okay. And it's in there because all the other builders are using particle board or OSB, which is a little bit more structural than the foam.